You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. You know, one of the things that we talked about on Monday that is, again, relevant and will persist for as long as Ed Orgeron remains LSU's head coach is that the conversation is going to be less about the games on the field and more about the coach's job status. And oftentimes that's going to get loud and uncomfortable. Of course, Michael Cobble asked Orgeron about his job status. He answered it with about a 60-second answer. Later in the press conference, you all might have heard Jacques Doucet followed and led to this uncomfortable exchange.
How are you handling all this, Coach? I mean, I know, you talked about your job status a little bit and whatnot, but how is LSU?
Jacques, excuse me. Are you trying to get another quote from me?
No, sir.
You sure?
I'm just trying to do my job, Coach.
Good. Well, I'm going to do mine. I'm handling it great. I said that before.
Look, I understand Jacques needing to ask the question. I understand Ed Orgeron not liking the question. It's human nature. It's uncomfortable. You're talking about people's jobs. That's going to affect families and a lot. I mean, again, it's a very uncomfortable thing to have to do in the public. Jacques has to ask the question. Ed Orgeron didn't like it. You would love to see a more measured response so that doesn't become something people talk about. But that's one of the things that happens sometimes in a situation like this. But the point I made Monday, and I'll continue to make, is that the longer you string this out, if in fact, as it seems it will, that the decision has been made that they are going to move on from Ed Orgeron, he will not be the head coach next year. If you know that definitively, and the longer you wait, the more this becomes the conversation. Ed Orgeron was a guest on Off the Bench earlier today with Hester and T-Bob. And, of course, they asked him about his job status.
Well, my job is to come here to LSU and coach the best I can on a daily basis. That's what I'm doing. And, out there, there's about my job and all that stuff. Nobody's told me anything. As far as I know, the head coach of the LSU Tigers, I'm going to coach as hard as I can today, one day at a time.
And then it was player interview time, and Liam Shanahan got asked about Ed Orgeron's job status.
Yeah, I'm not even thinking about that at all. That's not anything that I could control or any of my teammates can control. What we're focused on every week is just preparing for our opponent, which this week is Florida, and it's going to be a big game for us. Obviously it's been a tough start to the year for us. None of us wanted to be in the situation, but the only thing that we can do is keep fighting, and we have an opportunity to get a big win at home this week, so we got to do everything we can to get ready for it.
Last week, it was Pete Thamel at Yahoo who wrote a piece about Ed Orgeron, his hot seat. Today, Pat Forty, the 40-yard dash, referenced it as well. And Adam Rittenberg at ESPN has the mid-season hot seat report. And, of course, the picture, the image right there accompanying the headline, and the first name mentioned is Ed Orgeron of LSU, and suggestions of who might be next to replace Ed Orgeron, as if this is already a foregone conclusion. This is the problem. The longer you wait, the louder it becomes, the more it distracts from the season, the more it is about the coach and his future and less about this current team with 6 games to go. I asked it before, I'll say it again. Do you really want the next 7 weeks to be all about Ed Orgeron's future? That will become a tiresome conversation, and it will become more uncomfortable and more testy the longer it goes. Now, for what it's worth, in Adam Rittenberg's piece today, he mentions a lot of the things we already know. Aside from what's happened on the field and losing assistants, he did mention that Joe Brady was the play caller in 2019, which he's wrong, and that still bothers me to this day and will for all eternity, as long as people continue to say that, discrediting Steve Ensminger as the play caller on that team. But he writes, in June, Orgeron was added as a defendant in the Title IX lawsuit against LSU. Goes on to write, LSU, one of only 3 teams in the AP poll era to go 9-7 or worse in 16 games following a national title. Compares Orgeron to Gene Chizik, as many have and will continue to do so. And Rittenberg quotes an anonymous Power 5 administrator who said, quote, "I just don't see it getting better. Offensively, that was not a great hire. Defensively, that was not a great hire. I don't have trust in the coordinators to get better, and I certainly don't have trust in Ed Orgeron to lead and manage in crisis situations." Goes on to say that expect Woodward to be bold and aggressive if and when LSU makes a coaching change. An FBS assistant coach in Louisiana said, quote, "It's got to pop for him," meaning Woodward. A lot of people are throwing out names and will continue to do so. For what it's worth, Rittenberg in his piece mentions home run hires as Mario Cristobal, James Franklin, Lincoln Riley, Jimbo Fisher, Mark Stoops, Lane Kiffin, and Mike Gundy. I'll X a few off of this list. LSU kicked the tires on Mike Gundy back in 2016. He was not interested. He's not leaving Oklahoma State. While Lane Kiffin was a name I was given early, it seems clearer every day that Kiffin is not going to be on LSU's permanent list, mostly because of some of his off-the-field tendencies. If LSU is, in fact, going to make a very clean, safe hire, you would almost have to X Lane Kiffin off the list. Mark Stoops at Kentucky is certainly not a splashy enough hire. I doubt very seriously that Lincoln Riley would leave Oklahoma for anything but the NFL, which would leave three names left on here, being Mario Cristobal, James Franklin, and Jimbo Fisher. Fisher, remember, has no buyout. He has a very good relationship with Scott Woodward and certainly an affinity for Baton Rouge. Might not be the best timing, though, at Texas A&M, which would kind of leave the top two names on this list, Mario Cristobal and James Franklin. I don't know what direction Scott Woodward would be leaning with those two, but I have not heard anyone at LSU mention Cristobal. I have heard people mention to me the name James Franklin. So what if Scott Woodward gets into a bare-knuckle fight with Southern Cal for James Franklin? Can he win? Will be interesting to see. But I'll reiterate, the longer they go without making a change, the more the conversation becomes about Ed Orgeron and less about LSU and Florida, then LSU and Ole Miss, then LSU and Bama and Arkansas, ULM, and A&M with half the season remaining. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.